The Palace of Throne Prime was the most beautiful thing in 17 star systems. It was made of crystal that caught the light of 3 suns and turned it into rainbows. The walls sang with old music. The floors were smooth as water. And at the center of it all sat Empress Cytheris, ruler of the Velkari people. Cytheris was tall, almost 8 feet, with skin like black glass and eyes that burn gold. Her people had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They could speak mind to mind without words. They could live for 500 years. They believed they were the greatest beings in the universe. Tonight, they would learn they were wrong. Cytheris sat in her private garden, watching her 3 children sleep in the nursery through the window. Velthar, her eldest son, was 15 years old. He had her eyes and his father's strong jaw. The twin girls, Syra and Veth, were only 8. They slept holding hands, as they always did. The Empress smiled. Her husband had died in a ship accident 3 years ago. These children were all she had left of him. They were her heart. A reason for everything. She did not know that killers were already inside the palace. The assassins moved like shadows. They wore suits that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. Their weapons made no sound. The royal guard, warriors who had trained for 100 years, died without knowing what hit them. The first sign of trouble was silence. The night birds in the garden stopped singing. Cytheris stood up, her senses reaching out. She felt nothing. No minds, no thoughts. Where there should have been hundreds of guards, there was only emptiness. Then the explosions began. Fire bloomed across the palace. The crystal walls shattered. Cytheris heard screaming from every direction. She ran toward the nursery, her bare feet cutting on broken glass. She did not feel the pain. She could only think of her children. She found her advisor, old Kethmer, dying on the floor. His silver blood pooled around him. He grabbed her arm with his last strength. "The children," he gasped. "They took them. Run, my Empress, run." He died in her arms. Cytheris reached the nursery. The door was torn off. The beds were empty. On the wall, someone had carved words in the old language. "The dynasty ends tonight." She screamed. It was not a sound of fear. It was rage. Pure, burning rage. She reached out with her mind, calling for help. The palace was connected to a network that linked all Velkari. Any of her people should have heard her. No one answered. The network was dead. She tried to contact her. Fleet, nothing. Her personal guards, nothing. Everyone who might have helped her was either dead or blocked. The coup had been planned perfectly. Cytheris heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see 5 assassins coming down the hall. Their weapons were pointed at her. She could see their thoughts now, leaking through their mental shields. They were supposed to kill her. They were supposed to end the royal bloodline forever. But Cytheris had not become Empress by being weak. She reached into their minds and pushed. 2 of them dropped dead instantly, their brains shut down like broken machines. The other 3 fired, but she was already moving. She had been a warrior before she was a ruler. Her body remembered the old training. She killed one with her bare hands, crushing his throat. Another she threw through a wall. The last one she burned from the inside, boiling his blood with psychic fire. Then she collapsed. The effort had cost her too much. She was bleeding from a wound in her side. One of the energy blasts had hit her. She had not even felt it. She forced herself to stand. She had to find her children. She had to survive. The palace was chaos. Fires everywhere. Bodies everywhere. She saw faces she knew. People who had served her family for generations, lying dead on the beautiful floors. She wanted to stop. She wanted to mourn. But she could not. She made her way to the private hangar. Most of the ships were destroyed or guarded by traitors. But there was one small vessel, a diplomatic shuttle, hidden behind a false wall. Only the royal family knew about it. Scythrus climbed inside. Her hands were shaking. Her vision was going dark at the edges. She started the engines and flew straight up, crashing through the hangar doors behind her. The palace burned in orbit. She saw her fleet. Hundreds of warships that should have protected her. They were firing on each other. The loyal captains were fighting the traitors, but they were losing. No one noticed the small shuttle slipping away. She activated the faster-than-light drive. The computer asked for a destination. She did not have one. She just needed to get away. She needed to survive long enough to find her children. The engine fired. Stars stretched into lines. And then everything went wrong. The navigation system had been damaged, corrupted by the same sabotage that had killed her network. The ship lurched and screamed. Warning lights flashed red. Scythrus tried to control it, but she was too weak. The wound in her side was bleeding badly now. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel in an unknown system. A yellow sun. 8 planets. Nothing on any map she knew. The third planet was blue and green and white. It looked almost like home. The engines died. The ship began to fall. Scythrus had just enough strength to aim for land instead of water. She tried to slow down. She tried to survive. But the ground came up too fast. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was a forest of tall trees and a mountain covered in snow. The last thing she thought was, my children. I have to find my children. Then the ship hit the ground. And the Empress of 17 star systems knew nothing more. Far away. In the palace that still burned, the traitors celebrated. General Vexner, leader of the military cabal, sat on the crystal throne and smiled. The Empress was dead. Her children were prisoners. The old ways were finished. He did not know that Scythrus lived. He did not know where she had crashed. And he certainly did not know that on that small blue planet, a very dangerous species was about to find their new empress. The humans were coming, and they would change everything. Marcus Cole saw the fire in the sky at 3 in the morning. He was sitting on his porch, drinking coffee and not sleeping, like most nights. Sleep brought dreams. Dreams brought memories. Memories brought pain. He watched the streak of light cross the stars and disappear behind the mountains. It was too slow for a meteor, too fast for a plane. He waited for the sound of an explosion. It came about 30 seconds later, a deep boom that echoed through the valley. Marcus put down his coffee. He went inside and got his rifle, his medical kit, and his truck keys. If a plane had crashed, people might need help. The nearest town was 40 miles away. Emergency services would take hours. He had been a lot of things in his 42 years. Army Ranger for 12 years. Private military contractor for 8 more. Husband for 3 beautiful years. Widower for 2 terrible ones. Now he was just a man who fixed engines in a small Montana town and tried not to think about the past. He drove toward the mountains as the sun came up. The crash site was not hard to find. Trees were broken in a long line, like something had skipped across the forest. Fires still burned in places. And at the end of the destruction was something that made Marcus stop his truck and stare. It was not a plane. The craft was maybe 30 feet long, made of metal that shifted colors in the light. It had no wings. No windows he could see. It looked like nothing humans had ever built. Marcus stood very still for a long moment. His mind was trying to understand what his eyes were seeing. Then he heard a sound from inside the wreck. A weak, painful moan. Someone was alive in there. He moved without thinking. 20 years of training took over. He found an opening in the hull, a crack where the metal had split. He squeezed through, ignoring the sharp edges that cut his arms. Inside was dark and filled with smoke. Strange lights flickered on broken screens. The air smelled like burning plastic and something else, something sweet and alien. He found her in what looked like a pilot's seat. She was not human. That was obvious immediately. She was too tall, maybe 7 feet even sitting down. Her skin was black like polished stone. Her hair was silver and long, and she was bleeding. The blood was silver too. Marcus had seen a lot of death. He had caused a lot of death, but he had never stopped trying to prevent it when he could. He checked her wounds. There was a bad one in her side, deep and still bleeding. Burns on her arms and face. Probably broken bones he could not see. She was dying. He carried her out of the wreck. She was lighter than she looked, or maybe adrenaline made him stronger. He put her in the back of his truck as gently as he could. He packed the wound with bandages from his kit. He did not know if human medicine would work on her. He did not care. He had to try. The drive back to his cabin took an hour. She did not wake up. Her breathing was shallow and strange, like she was not getting enough air. He drove faster. His cabin was small but clean. He had built most of it himself after Sarah died. He needed something to do with his hands, something to keep the darkness away. He put the alien woman on his bed. He cleaned her wounds with water and antiseptic. The silver blood made everything look strange, like a dream. Her skin was cool to the touch, cooler than human skin. Her heartbeat, when he found it, was slow and deep. For 3 days, he did not leave her side. He dripped water into her mouth. He changed her bandages. He talked to her, even though she could not hear him. He told her about Sarah, about the cancer that took her, about the emptiness he had felt ever since. He did not know why. Maybe he just needed to talk to someone, even someone who could not answer. On the 3rd day, she opened her eyes. They were gold. Pure gold, like coins or sunlight. They looked at him with confusion, then fear, then something else. Calculation, intelligence. She was studying him. Marcus held up his hands, showing he had no weapons. Easy, he said. You're safe. You crashed. I've been taking care of you. She spoke. The words were not English, not any language he knew. They sounded like music and thunder mixed together. But he understood the tone. She was asking questions. I don't understand you, he said slowly. But you're going to be okay. I promise. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed. She spoke again, and this time the words were English. Rough and accented, but English. Where? Am I? Marcus stared. She had learned his language in seconds, just from hearing him talk for 3 days. Earth, he said. Montana. North America. Earth. She tasted the word. Your planet. Your species. Human. We're called humans. She looked at him for a long moment. Her golden eyes seemed to see right through him, into his thoughts, into his soul. You saved me, she said. Why? Marcus shrugged. You were hurt. Is what people do? No. She shook her head slowly. It is not what people do. Not my people. Not any people I have known. She tried to sit up and gasped with pain. Marcus moved to help her, adjusting the pillows behind her. Don't move too much. You're still healing. I must find them, she said. Her voice was desperate now. My children. They took my children. Marcus went very still. He understood that kind of pain. He did not have children, but he had lost Sarah. He knew what it felt like when someone took the person you loved. Who took them? Traitors. Killers. They destroyed my palace. Killed my guards. Took my throne. She looked at him with those burning gold eyes. I am Cytheris, Empress of the Velkari, ruler of 17 star systems, and I have nothing left but the need to find my children. Marcus sat down on the chair next to the bed. He looked at this alien empress, wounded and alone on a planet she had never known existed. He thought about his own empty life, his cabin in the woods, his days fixing engines, and his nights not sleeping. "Tell me everything," he said, and she did. The weeks passed slowly. Cytheris healed faster than Marcus expected. Her body was different from humans, stronger in some ways, more fragile in others. But her spirit healed slower than her flesh. She told him about her empire. 17 star systems. Trillions of people. A civilization that had existed for 10,000 years. She told him about her husband, dead now for 3 years, and her children. Velthor, serious and smart, already learning to be a leader. Syra and Veth, the twins, full of laughter and mischief. She cried when she talked about them. Marcus had never seen an alien cry before. Her tears were silver, like her blood. He told her about Earth, about humans. She was surprised by how young their civilization was. The Valkyrie had been building cities when humans were still living in caves. She was surprised by how violent human history was. Wars everywhere. Killing everywhere. "Your people fight each other," she said one evening. "All the time. Over everything. How have you not destroyed yourselves?" Marcus thought about it. "We came close a few times. But we're stubborn. We keep going, even when it's stupid to keep going." She studied him with those gold eyes. "You are a strange species." "Yeah," he said. "We are." She tried to use her psychic abilities on him once, curious about what human minds felt like. She touched his thoughts and pulled back immediately, shocked. "Your mind," she whispered. "It is so loud, so chaotic, like a storm that never stops." "Sorry. No." She shook her head. "It is not bad. It is just different. My people think in straight lines. Your people think in circles and spirals and explosions. I cannot read you properly. There is too much happening." Marcus smiled slightly. "Good to know we're confusing." The hunters came 3 weeks after the crash. Marcus knew they were coming before they arrived. He had set up sensors around his property years ago, back when he first moved here. Old habits from his military days. The sensors picked up movement in the forest. 5 figures, moving in formation, carrying weapons. He woke Cytheris in the dark. "Company," he said quietly. 5 of them. Military formation. They're not human. Her eyes went wide with fear. "Bounty hunters." They tracked my ship's signal. She tried to stand, but she was still weak. "We must run." "No." Marcus was already loading his rifle. "We don't run. Not from 5. You do not understand. They are Valkyrie warriors. Trained killers. They have weapons your people cannot imagine." Marcus looked at her. His eyes were cold and calm. The eyes of a man who had killed before and would kill again. "I spent 20 years fighting wars," he said. "I've killed people in 12 different countries. I've survived ambush, assassinations, and airstrikes. I've seen things that would break most men." He checked his rifle one more time. 5 aliens in my forest? That's a Tuesday. He left her in the cabin and went into the woods. The Valkyrie hunters were good. They moved quietly. They had technology that should have made them invisible. But they did not know this forest. They did not know that Marcus had walked every inch of it. They did not know about the traps he had set when he first moved here, paranoid and broken from years of war. The first hunter stepped on a pressure plate and was thrown into the air by a spring-loaded trap. He crashed into a tree and did not get up. The others scattered, confused. They had expected to find a wounded empress and maybe some primitive natives. They had not expected resistance. Marcus hit the second one with a rifle shot from 300 yards away. The alien's energy shield flickered and died. The second shot took him in the head. The third hunter finally found Marcus with his scanner. He raised his weapon, some kind of energy rifle that glowed blue. Marcus was faster. He came out of the darkness like a ghost, knife in hand. The hunter died without making a sound. 2 left. They were panicking now, calling for backup on devices that Marcus had already jammed with an EMP he had built from spare parts. They were alone. They were scared. Good. Marcus hunted them through the forest for an hour. He let them run. He let them think they might escape. Then he killed them, one after another, with traps and bullets and his bare hands. When it was done, he walked back to the cabin. He was covered in silver blood. His hands were shaking, but his face was calm. Cytheris was standing in the doorway, staring at him. "How?" she whispered. They were elite warriors, the best of the bounty guilds. How did one human kill 5 of them? Marcus cleaned his knife on his shirt. "Your people evolved at the top of the food chain," he said. "Nothing ever hunted you. You became soft, slow. You rely on your technology, your psychic powers, your shields." He looked at her with those cold eyes. "Humans evolved at the bottom. Everything hunted us. Lions, tigers, other humans. We learned to fight dirty. We learned to never give up. We learned to be the most dangerous thing in any room, any forest, any planet." He walked past her into the cabin. "Your hunters underestimated me. That was their mistake. Anyone who comes after you while I'm around will make the same mistake." Cytheris followed him inside. She looked at this human, this primitive creature from a species her people had dismissed as barely intelligent. She had ruled an empire. She had commanded fleets. She had seen warriors from 100 species. She had never seen anything like Marcus Cole. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "You do not know me. You owe me nothing. Why risk your life for a stranger?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Sarah. He thought about the emptiness that had filled him since she died. He thought about the years he had spent alone, waiting for something to matter again. "Because your children need their mother," he said finally. "And I can help. It's that simple." Cytheris looked at him. In her 300 years, she had learned to read people. She could see truth and lies like colors. And in Marcus Cole, she saw something rare. She saw a man who meant exactly what he said. "Then we go together," she said. "We find my children. We take back my throne." Marcus nodded. "We're going to need a bigger ship." He looked out the window at the crashed vessel in the forest. "Let's see what we can build." It took 2 months to build a ship that could fly. Cytheris had knowledge. Marcus had skills. Together, they combined parts from her crashed vessel, the dead hunter's equipment, and Earth technology that Marcus bought from junkyards and military surplus stores. The result was ugly, a patchwork thing that looked like it might fall apart at any moment, but it flew. And it could travel faster than light. Marcus left Earth on a cold morning in December. He did not look back. There was nothing for him there anymore. His wife was dead. His friends were gone. His country did not need him. But out in the stars, there were 3 children who needed their mother. That was enough. The journey across Valkyrie space took 6 months. 6 months of hiding, fighting, running, and learning. Cytheris taught Marcus everything she could. The languages of a dozen species. The politics of the empire. The history of 10,000 years. His brain hurt from all the information, but he learned. Humans were good at learning. He also learned to fight in space. Zero gravity was strange at first. There was no up or down, no ground to stand on. But Marcus adapted. He always adapted. Within weeks, he was moving through ship corridors like he had been born there. Within months, he was better than most Valkyrie soldiers. Cytheris watched him with amazement. "Your species learns so fast," she said one day. How is this possible? Marcus thought about it. We don't live very long. 80 years if we're lucky. We don't have time to be slow. She stared at him. 80 years? That is nothing. That is a blink, maybe. But we pack a lot into that blink. They made allies along the way. The Valkyrie Empire was not loved by everyone. There were species that had been conquered, enslaved, forgotten. Marcus talked to them. He promised them that Cytheris was different, that she had tried to reform the empire before the coup. Some believed him. Some did not. But enough did. Word spread through the underground networks. The Empress was alive. She had a human protector. She was coming back. The first rescue was Velthor. Cytheris' son was being held by a warlord named Kratzer on a planet at the edge of the Empire. Kratzer was a brutal creature who had fought for the Cabal in exchange for territory. He thought the boy was valuable. He was right. Marcus studied the fortress for 2 weeks. He learned the guard rotations, the security systems, the blind spots. Then he went in alone. Cytheris wanted to come. She demanded to come. But she was still recognizable, still the Empress. She would be captured immediately. Marcus was just a human. Nobody paid attention to humans. He slipped through the fortress like a ghost. He killed guards when he had to, avoided them when he could. He found Velthor in a cell deep underground, thin and scared but alive. The boy looked at him with suspicion. "Who are you?" "A friend of your mother. She's waiting for us." "Let's go." Getting out was harder than getting in. Alarms went off. Guards came running. Marcus fought through them with stolen weapons and desperate fury. He took 3 wounds, but kept moving. He got the boy to the ship. He flew them out while Kratzer's forces shot at them from the ground. When Cytheris saw her son, she collapsed into tears. She held him for hours, whispering in their language, touching his face like she could not believe he was real. Velthor looked at Marcus with new eyes. "You saved me," he said. "You are just one human, and you saved me from an army." Marcus shrugged. It wasn't an army, just a few hundred soldiers. The boy smiled for the first time in months. "I think I understand why Mother trusts you." The twins were harder. Sira and Veth were prisoners of the military cabal itself, held on the fortress moon of Velcaris Prime. This was not some distant warlord's territory. This was the heart of enemy power. Thousands of soldiers, dozens of warships. The best security in the Empire. Marcus spent 3 months planning. He used the allies they had gathered. The oppressed species who hated the Cabal. The loyal Valkyrie who had gone into hiding. The smugglers and thieves and rebels who lived in the shadows. He built a network. He created distractions. He found weaknesses. The assault happened on the anniversary of the coup. The Cabal was celebrating. They were drunk on their victory, confident in their power. They never saw it coming. Marcus led a team of 30 fighters into the fortress. It was not enough for a real assault, but it was enough for a rescue. They fought through corridors filled with smoke and fire. They killed guards who stood in their way. They reached the cell where 2 little girls waited, holding hands, just like they always did. Syra looked at Marcus with her mother's golden eyes. "Are you the human?" she asked. "Mother's human?" "That's me. She said you would come. She promised." Marcus picked up both girls, one in each arm. They were light, so small, just children. "Your mother keeps her promises," he said. "And so do I." The escape was chaos. Fire everywhere. Explosions everywhere. Marcus ran through it all with the twins held close, protecting them with his body. He took more wounds, burns, cuts, a piece of metal in his leg. He did not stop. The ship was waiting. Cytheris was at the controls, her face white with fear. When she saw her daughters, she screamed with joy. They flew away as the fortress moon burned behind them. That night, while the children slept, Cytheris found Marcus in the medical bay, bandaging his wounds. "You almost died," she said. "For my children, you almost died. I didn't, though." She sat down next to him. Her hands were shaking. "In 300 years, no one has ever done for me what you have done. No one has ever risked so much, asked for so little." She looked at him with tears in her golden eyes. "Why?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Sarah again, about the emptiness, about the years of meaningless existence. "Because this matters," he said finally. "Because you matter. Because those kids matter. I spent a long time looking for something worth fighting for. I found it." Cytheris took his hand. Her skin was cool against his. "When I take back my throne," she said, "you will stand at my side. Not as a servant, not as a soldier, as family." Marcus smiled. It was a real smile, the first in years. "Let's take back your throne first. Then we can talk about family." They flew toward Throne Prime, toward the final battle, toward the end of everything, or maybe the beginning. The fleet that gathered at the edge of Valkyrie space was not large. 37 ships. Most were old or damaged. Their crews were rebels and outcasts and dreamers. They faced an empire of 17 star systems, thousands of warships, and millions of soldiers. But they had something the Cabal did not expect. They had a story. For a year, Marcus had been spreading it. The story of the Empress who survived. The story of the human who protected her. The story of the children rescued from impossible prisons. The story traveled through the underground networks like fire. It reached soldiers who were tired of the Cabal's cruelty. It reached citizens who remembered the old Empress and her kindness. It reached the conquered species who dreamed of freedom. When Cytheris's fleet jumped into the Throne Prime system, they were met by the Cabal's armada. 500 warships. The largest force in the history of the Empire. And then something amazing happened. One by one, ships began to change sides. Captains who had waited for this moment turned their weapons on their former allies. Soldiers who had hidden their loyalty revealed themselves. The Cabal's admirals screamed orders, but no one listened. Half the fleet joined Cytheris in the first hour. Then more. By the time the sun set on Throne Prime, the Cabal controlled only 100 ships. And those were surrounded. General Vexener, the leader of the coup, watched from the Crystal Palace as his empire crumbled. He had spent a year sitting on the stolen throne, enjoying his power, believing he had won. Now he saw the truth. He had only been keeping the throne warm. The real ruler was coming home. Cytheris landed at the palace with her children and Marcus at her side. The doors were open. The guards were gone. Only Vexener remained, standing in the throne room with his personal guard, 20 soldiers in black armor. "You should be dead," Vexener said. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed fear. "I destroyed everything. Your guards, your network, your ship. How are you alive?" Cytheris stepped forward. She was no longer the wounded refugee who had crashed on Earth. She was the Empress again, tall and powerful and burning with cold fury. "You made one mistake," she said. "You thought humans were primitives. You thought one human could not matter." Vexener looked at Marcus. The human was scarred now, marked by a year of battles. He stood quietly, watching, waiting. He did not look like much. Just a middle-aged man with tired eyes. "This creature?" Vexener laughed. "This animal saved you?" "This creature," Cytheris said, "killed 5 of your bounty hunters in one night. He rescued my son from Krath's fortress alone. He led the assault that freed my daughters from your prison. He built the network that turned your fleet against you." She smiled coldly. This creature is more dangerous than anything in your empire. Vexenor's fear grew. But he was a soldier. He had not risen to general by being a coward. Then I will kill him myself, he said. And then I will kill you. And your children. The dynasty ends today. He drew his sword, a blade of energy that hummed with power. His guards raised their weapons. Marcus stepped forward. Just you and me, he said to Vexenor. Your guards stay back. My people stay back. Let's see what happens. Vexenor should have refused. He had 20 soldiers. He had every advantage. But his pride was wounded. A human had destroyed his plans. A human had beaten his best warriors. He needed to prove himself. Agreed, he said. The guards stepped back. Cytheris wanted to protest, but Velthor put his hand on her arm. Let him, the boy said. He knows what he is doing. The fight began. Vexenor was fast. Faster than any enemy Marcus had ever faced. The energy sword cut through the air like lightning. Marcus dodged and rolled and retreated, barely staying alive. His human weapons were useless against Volcari armor. He needed to get close. The general laughed. You see? You are nothing. A primitive playing at war. Marcus did not answer. He was watching, learning. The Volcari fought with patterns, formal moves learned over centuries. Beautiful and deadly, but predictable. Humans did not fight like that. The next time Vexenor swung, Marcus did not dodge. He stepped into the attack. The sword cut his arm, burning through flesh and bone. But it also brought him close enough to strike. He hit Vexenor in the throat. A simple punch, but perfectly placed. The general staggered, choking. His sword dropped. Marcus picked it up. You trained for 1,000 years, he said. I trained for 20, but I trained to win, not to look pretty. He drove the sword through Vexenor's heart. The general fell. His guards dropped their weapons. The coup was over. Cytheris walked to the crystal throne. She sat down slowly, like someone returning home after a long journey. Her children stood beside her, and Marcus stood behind them all, watching, protecting, as he always did. It's done, she said softly. It's finally done. In the days that followed, the Empire changed. Cytheris offered peace to the rebel species. She punished the worst of the Cabal and pardoned those who surrendered. She began the reforms she had planned before the coup, making the Empire fairer, kinder, better. And she made an announcement that shocked everyone. Earth was placed under Imperial protection. Humans were recognized as allies of the throne. Any species that threatened them would face the full power of the Volcari Empire. More than that, Marcus Cole was named the first human ambassador, not because he wanted titles or power, but because Cytheris trusted him, and because someone needed to speak for humanity in the councils of the stars. On his first day in the ambassador's office, Velthor came to visit. You could have anything, the young prince said. Wealth, land, command of fleets. Why did you only ask for protection for your planet? Marcus looked out the window at the alien stars. I didn't do this for rewards, he said. I did it because your mother needed help. Because you and your sisters needed help. That's enough. But surely you want something for yourself? Marcus thought about Sarah, about his cabin in Montana, about the emptiness that had driven him for so long. He realized, with surprise, that the emptiness was gone. He had found something to fill it. I have what I want, he said. I have a purpose. I have people who matter to me. I have a chance to do some good in the universe. He smiled at the boy. What more does anyone need? Years later, historians wrote about the Restoration. They wrote about the politics and the battles and the changing of power. But those who were there knew the real story. An empress lost everything and found hope on a strange planet. A broken soldier found meaning in protecting someone who needed him. 3 children got their mother back. And humanity took its first steps into a universe that had never noticed them before. It was not a story about empires or power. It was a story about family, about doing what was right, about never giving up, no matter how impossible the odds. It was a human story, and it was only the beginning. On Earth, in Montana, there was still a cabin in the woods. Marcus kept it, even after he became ambassador. Sometimes, when the politics became too much, he went back there. He sat on the porch. He drank coffee. He watched the stars, and he smiled because he knew something wonderful. Out there, among those stars, humanity had a protector, an empress who would never forget what one human had done for her, who would make sure that Earth had time to grow, to learn, to become what it was meant to be. The universe was vast and dangerous and full of wonders, and humanity was just getting started.